So as I was saying, I have more of that libertarian type of viewpoint. I do believe that abortion is wrong from my own personal standpoint. I also think state should decide. So if Texas wants to have no abortion, period, people vote for it. I'm great with it. If California wants to have it, even though I might not agree with it, if they vote for it, I kind of fall along those lines. Now, everyone doesn't agree with me on that, but that's just my own thought process with it. So I just wanted to kind of give you an idea of where my mindset comes from.
Sure.
Um, but I'm interested in this because I was listening to a different podcast and I thought it was kind of interesting. They were talking about different churches and different stuff, and we'll go into other things, but
Mhm.
the you mentioned people being able to, put rights, put ideas, put thoughts forward, which I agree with. But then
Mhm.
there's those little caveats, like a church can't say vote for Barack Obama or vote for Donald Trump. And I just picked the
Mhm.
two most popular presidents on both sides in the last
Sure.
little bit.
Sure.
What are your thoughts on that? Do you think pastors and religious leaders should be able to, like, say, hey, vote for this person? Or I'm not talking about like the moral standpoints. They should definitely be able to
Sure.
do that. But I'm just wondering your thoughts
Sure.
on it.
Yeah, no, I mean the church that my family and I attend, Cornerstone Chapel in Leesburg, and Pastor Gary Hemrick has really been at the tip of the spear, um, inviting folks like Governor Glenn Youngkin, and our Lieutenant Governor Winsome Sears, to speak before the congregation and to pray over them, and a lot of elected officials do attend that church. So it's sort of I think really when you look back to, the COVID period and then coming out of COVID, the churches that really, were unafraid to speak the truth and, preach the gospel grew by leaps and bounds. And that's very true of the church, my church. Whereas I think some of those kind of more milquetoast pastors or ones that were, scared to engage in the culture war issues, like the trans issue or the life issue, those churches are, waning in congregation size, in my opinion, rightly so. You want to have churches that boldly, declare truth and, teach right through the Bible without skipping any sections that might seem controversial, but that's on purpose. Like you need to hear that and understand, you know, where that truth is coming from. So yeah, I mean, as far as the church I attend, and part of the reason is because our pastor is very unashamedly, pro uh conservative values, and thereby, supports a lot of Republican candidates,
Mhm.
up and down ballot.
Yeah, no, I got you there. So my question would be this, because I've heard like on tax loopholes and different stuff and different rules that churches aren't allowed to say certain things. I've like just looking
Sure.
into that aspect. What are your thoughts on that? And I would even use this, like even when Barack Obama was running, and I
Mhm.
believe his pastor had said some more leftist
Sure.
ideological aspects. Are you good with churches, right, left, whatever, because you have them on both, just
Sure.
speaking their truth? Like I am, because I
Yeah.
want to know what they actually think. I don't want to go somewhere and have the fog, but will
Right.
they, are you okay with them having the tax exempt status as well? So there's a two-part question.
Yeah, no, I mean, and that's that, having worked with a host of 501(c)(3) and C4 organizations, it really boils down to that. And churches are obviously under the 501(c)(3) banner, although they have a little bit of a different carve out there. That being said, yeah, I mean, I fully endorse churches being able to support the candidates that align with their belief system. For the longest time, African American churches like the one that Barack Obama had attended would be doing this and were just never prosecuted by the federal government or IRS. I know, just speaking in terms of my home church, they've certainly had issues over the years of the IRS coming after them, and organizations like Alliance Defending Freedom, and Dr. Mike Ferris, who also attends Cornerstone, have been again at the tip of the spear defending the church's right to, speak to all the issues of the day. I mean, we have a First Amendment for a reason. And I think, everyone should be able to have the right to speak out politically based on their faith. That's really what, our founders envisioned and wanted. So, yeah.
No, I'm good with that. What are your thoughts on the tax implementation? Because I know right now for churches, there's like a 14-step thing they have to qualify to be considered a church. But then you have
Sure.
some groups, and I'm going to just put it out here, like the televangelists that really don't
Sure.
have a church. They're just making money off of people. What are your thoughts on that and the tax status? And my thoughts are this. I want people and individuals to say what they want. I want true, genuine churches to say what they want. But
Sure.
there's a lot of charlatans on I'll say it on both sides.
Yeah. Yeah.
I
Yeah.
think both sides have both.
Mhm.
What are your thoughts on the tax implementation? Because that's a 20+ billion-dollar industry. People might be like, my church doesn't come close to that. Right. But if you
Right.
add it all up, that's a huge amount of flow that
Sure.
there's no real, what do I want to put? But besides those 14 points, there's no
Mhm.
real accountability. Like and
Mhm.
I'll say, because I don't like them, the Kenneth Copelands of the world make
Mhm.
millions of dollars and don't have
Sure.
to tell anyone where their money goes to. And I'm like, that there needs to be a little bit, and I'm a libertarian, so this is
Mhm.
weird for me, but on that, I'm
Sure.
like, why are you getting tax exempt status and I don't
Sure.
even know where you're at?
Yeah, I mean, and that's definitely, been part of the problem is that in any industry, and the church isn't exempt from this, there are bad actors. So those, kind of faux pastors or the televangelists that are, honestly speaking lies, when it comes to, the prosperity gospel and things like that, where it's big business. Like definitely not a fan of that. And there's several books out there. One that comes to mind, Pastors for Sale, kind of really does a deep dive into that. And in those cases, yeah, that it's no longer a nonprofit. Like you're living off the lifestyle and exploiting loopholes. So whether there's the will or power in DC to actually fix some of these things, that's the problem and the challenge. In general, I do think that the church should be able to engage in political evangelicism, speaking on political matters, and be able to keep their tax exempt status. As long as they're in layman's terms, actually a church, and proclaiming truth and not just kind of playing a shell game to make someone rich. Really, that's very unbiblical.
Yeah. No,
Uh,
I agree, but here's the problem of a lot of them will try and say, well, it is my truth. I see in the Bible where God made Abraham rich or this or that. And believe me, I'm not,
sure.
I grew up in that. I know that you can't pimp
Mhm.
out God. Don't hear what I didn't. Joe Graham did not say you can pimp out God by giving to someone. You can't do that. Okay. We're going to clarify that. I want that on the record. But there are
Sure.
people that truly, genuinely believe this. And then you
Mhm.
get a huge buying power on the right or the left, because there's
Sure.
big churches on the left too.
Mhm.
What about them donating to campaigns? What are your thoughts on that? Again, I'm just interested
Sure.
because you're my first political guy that I've actually
Okay.
had on, so it's
Yeah,
intriguing me.
as far as directly contributing to political campaigns, I mean, that's something that I handle on a daily basis as far as working within the rules of the Federal Election Commission. And that's, again, a 501c3, no matter what, cannot contribute. Now, they can educate, and there's a host of them on the right and the left that do the voter education, saying, your congressman is, how they stand on, social issues, marriage, life, the trans issue, or, tax issues or whatever issues, they're, specific on. But, I would say no, as far as direct cut, like that's what, individuals are meant to do.
Mhm.
And there's lots of different entities, whether we're talking traditional political action committees or post Citizens United, the super PACs of the world. There's as a fundraiser, there's lots of money, obviously, in politics, and I specialize on the grassroots side, so the under $100 givers to causes and campaigns. But yeah, the church should stay in their lane as far as directly giving contributions from the church, because the whole idea of you're tithing to the church to help spread the gospel, not, necessarily elect a member of Congress
Yeah.
or whatever.
No, no, I agree with you on that. Some of this stuff intrigues me because there's so many little nuances. Like,
Mhm. Right.
what can we do? What can't we do? Oh, wait, you can go vote in a church, but it's supposed to be separate. I mean, I'm okay with like I want you to have as many voting places as possible. What
Sure.
are your thoughts? And because you're in politics, I love this. And again, I'm
Uh-huh.
just kind of my mind going there. What are
Sure.
your thoughts? Because I'm in Arizona, so
Mhm.
Turning Point USA is by me. I
Sure.
know that the Charlie Kirk assassination murder
Mhm.
happen. What
Mhm.
have you seen? Because this is something that I've seen, and again, I'm not in politics, and I'm not really big in like the church circle, so there's not like my influence. But I've seen since that point and a little bit beforehand, more of an open dialogue starting to happen, where more people on the left are moving more toward the right. More libertarians like myself are being pushed more to the right because of the political thought processes. Well, let me put it this way. 50 years ago, maybe more than 50 now, when JFK was around, I probably would have been called a classical liberal, meaning I'm a fiscal conservative, but I'm not as really, I don't care on gay, personal opinion, gay marriage, I don't care. But on my thoughts on it, I don't think a church should be forced to marry anyone either. And I don't think the government should be involved in marriage. I don't think it should get a tax. I think marriage should be a thing with your religion. That's just my own thoughts.
Mhm.
But I've seen lately more people that were left for a long time moving to the right. And it's not because of just Trump. In fact, a lot of them don't even like Trump, but they're
Mhm.
like, I might not like him, but the left has lost its
Mhm.
mind. Have you
Yes.
seen like a trend,
Yeah,
especially
I
with
mean,
young people?
yeah, yeah. Oh, absolutely. And I've done a little bit of work with Turning Point and was literally, I've got samples of some Turning Point mail on my desk still, with Charlie's picture on it. So it's definitely, it's only been, a month or so since that tragic day. But and what he was doing was really trying to have that open and honest dialogue with folks that, disagreed with him, to actually have that civil discourse. You hit the nail right on the head. As far as the political left, I think they've doubled down on crazy. And really, whether it's the trans issue or some of the anti-Semitism that's run rampant more recently. You see folks like RFK Jr. or Tulsi Gabbard, obviously, abandoned the Democrat Party. I think Tulsi is officially a Republican, and RFK, I think, is still independent, but openly, joining the Trump admin and working in their respective lanes. Yeah, I think, Trump isn't your prototypical politician of either side. So, it's a blessing and a curse. You love him or you hate him. Like, I'm originally from New York, so, his way of speaking and bluster, like, I'm all for it. Although I know I have plenty of, very conservative Christian friends that really don't like how he speaks. And I understand that. I mean, he drops some F bombs here and there and uses some off color language, but um, one thing is, he is who he is. Like, there's no facade there. Like, he's always been, Donald Trump. And that, on the issues, again, like, he became way more conservative than I think a lot of us thought after he was elected in 2016. And then, after the Biden regime in DC for 4 years, him coming back and really hitting the ground running and doing a lot of great things. I mean, we're recording, pretty quickly after, he had the not just the Middle East peace accords, but also the Charlie Kirk Day of Remembrance, and presenting his widow Erica with the Medal of Freedom. So I think, all things are lining up to where there's chaos on the Democrat side, especially. I live 45 minutes outside DC, and technically we're still in government shutdown. And it's all about, giving health insurance to illegal immigrants, which is not a winning issue any for the vast majority of Americans outside of that fringe of the fringe that the Democrats seem to be trying to appease. But, it's, Trump will take a very pro-America, an 80-20 issue, and just because they have to be against him, they double down on just insanity, in my opinion. But being in Arizona, I mean, it's ground zero for you've got a governor's race happening, obviously there. You've had it's traditionally been a red state, but you have two Democrat senators currently.
Mhm.
And being in Virginia myself, I'm like, great, we've got, Republican governor, lieutenant governor, and attorney general currently, but there's elections this year, this November. So that could all change very quickly. So it's, I'm long on democracy and our, electoral style of politics. So if my side doesn't win, we pick up the ball and we, live to fight another day. Where I think a lot on the political left, Trump has kind of broke their minds to where there were two assassination attempts against him, and then
Mhm.
obviously, Charlie's assassination. So the left is kind of in a scary way, like ramped up the violence. And there's polls that have come out that, a good chunk of the political left is okay with the political violence continuing, which is really sad to see because, the whole idea of our founding fathers was that open, honest, debate the issues. And, that's, what we want to get back to, and not just kind of scream from our pulpits on either side.
Yeah. Well, and there's a couple things you said there. The funny thing is 10 years ago, Trump was a Democrat.
Mhm.
He gave money to both parts of the party. I think the
Mhm.
reason why he won, and a lot of people might not like this, is he actually falls more in the middle. Like
Mhm.
he does now lean more conservative because that's who he's supporting. But if you
Mhm.
watch his actions through his life, he's been in the
Oh yeah,
middle,
yeah,
donating to both sides.
yeah,
There are a couple concerning things, not as much with Trump, but just because you mentioned anti-Semitism on the left. I have
sure.
a wide variety of friends I know. There's starting to be getting to be some on the right as well because of Gaza, because of different
Sure,
things, because people
sure.
don't understand geopolitical things as well. I wanted to know your thoughts on it because, again, you're in this world.
Sure.
Yes, Israel has a right to defend itself. I do
Mhm.
agree with that.
Mhm.
Does that mean that they should level Gaza, where we've seen some of the pictures of the bombings and stuff, where they went a little bit more intense, just kind of hard to defend?
Sure.
Myself personally, I don't think so because they have the technology to pinpoint stuff. Now, I will caveat it if the U.S. had a terrorist group come in and kill 1,200 civilians, we would annihilate and wipe them out. Like that's
Mhm.
what we would do.
Right.
That's what I see Israel doing, but then you're getting that whole back and forth. And then not the Israeli people as much as Netanyahu and
Mhm.
that type of stuff. I've seen a resurgence even a little bit on the right with people. I'm like, why are you thinking this way? We had World War II for a reason because of anti-Semitism. I'm not saying
Mhm.
Israel does everything right, but what are your
Sure.
thoughts on that? Because I'm not just seeing it on the left. I'm seeing it
Sure.
starting to happen on the right too.
Yeah, I mean, you definitely have some folks like, Tucker Carlson or Candace Owens, Marjorie Taylor Greene that in a large part, like a Tucker, like he's not anti-Semitic, he's just anti-Netanyahu government. And some of the kind of, what he thinks would be overreach. Now, having, the October 7th attacks that were just, I mean, seemingly far worse than like, I mean, 9/11 was such a catalyzing event here for us, where obviously we went in and shock and awe Afghanistan, but really the rise in just I think the left being okay with targeting Jewish students on college campuses here, and
Mhm.
like that being completely acceptable from their side is quite literally insane when you have, the leader of the Democrats in DC is supposed to be Chuck Schumer, who's very much a New York City liberal Democrat, but has been, kind of having to appease the pro-Hamas, pro-Palestine base. But, again, like you said, if an event like that happened to us, we would annihilate the enemy. So it's hard for me, as an American to say like, okay, like after what your people, suffer through and the hostages and all that, like I'm happy that that part is done. Now, will there be a lasting peace? Probably not. I mean, if history serves, the Jews and Muslims, don't get along. And it's only a matter of time. But, as far as, Netanyahu's government, I'm sort of indifferent in the like, well, they got viciously attacked, so they, struck back twice as hard. Now, the counter argument there is obviously, some of the images coming out of Gaza, but again, like, the Gazan people were the ones that elected or allowed Hamas to, have a stronghold there and continue attack while still obviously having hostages. So I guess in general, I'd say, I'm fairly pro-Israel and having a lot of Jewish friends back home in New York. Uh and some that would, still, think of themselves as like a Joe Lieberman Democrat.
Mhm.
Like those don't really exist, at least as far as elected leaders these days. I think, the left has really kind of abandoned the pro-Israel or Jewish segment of their what has traditionally been the Democrat base. But yeah, it's after October 7th, kind of, that was certainly, captured everyone's attention.
Yeah. The thing that it kind of is like I don't completely understand from a political standpoint is
Mm.
I still think it's 70% of the Jewish people, Jewish American, vote Democrat.
Mhm.
While the Democrat Party is catering to like the pro-Palestinians or
Mhm.
Arabs type of groups, is
Mhm.
there like just and this is my weird thought, are there
Sure.
just more Middle Eastern people that are Muslim that lean that way now than Jewish? Is that why the Democrats are doing this? Or because it doesn't seem like a good thing to eliminate your base
Yeah.
or
I
one of
mean,
your key bases.
sure, but I think, I mean, in that number, I think you get a lot of people that say they are Jewish. Like they're historically Jewish, or, that's, like I was born and raised Catholic.
Mhm.
So there's a lot of people that, call themselves Jewish or Catholic, but don't go to church, don't really, listen to their respective religion, beliefs, biblical truth, or what have you. But I think that's where you get the kind of you know, the fringe there that, would say they're Jewish, but in reality they're either agnostic or atheist. And so, the whole idea of like gays for Gaza makes no logical sense because
No,
over there, if you're
they would
gay,
kill them.
you're going to
They
get
would kill
killed.
you. Yeah.
And here, we have, again, the First Amendment, lots of, freedoms and liberties that they're able to, openly express themselves, where, but again, that's, the delusion, I think, on that side of, well, okay, like I've got to be, this way on this whole set of issues where it's not actually having that, you know, intelligent conversation, learning, and social media, of which, this is probably going to be shared. It's a
Mhm.
great tool, and there's a blessing there, but the curse of it has been the kind of hyper polarization, both, politically and religiously too, where, the algorithms, feed you more of what you like and what you watch. So for those of us that grew up largely before, the iPhone and even having a phone, I think I got my first kind of cell phone in college.
Mhm.
Um, now, yeah, I have a 13-year-old son that thinks, every screen is a touch screen, and, because he grew up with that technology. It's certainly, and back to, Charlie Kirk, one of the things that he practiced, and I think would be good is, he would take what he would call a digital Sabbath. So on Saturday he would shut his phone off and just, enjoy being with his family, with his two kids and wife. And I think, the age, we grew up in of, going outside and, playing pickup basketball or baseball
Mhm.
or
Yep.
whatever.
Yep.
Now it's all in, virtual reality, or you've got your gamer setup or whatever. And that's been really to the ill of society, where, you know, it's hard to have, a hatred of someone if you're in regular communication and having
Hmm.
conversations with. I think back to, I was Mr. College Republican at, wearing at the time my Bush Cheney t-shirt, to classes, and, we would have open debate, and I knew all the, campus leftists that, we'd come and protest or counter protest each other's events, and we would live in the same, dorm building and have debates, and, then talk about, how we like the Knicks, or, whatever, wherever we could find, whether it's sports or, other interest wise, find common ground. Because yes, we may disagree on tax policy, but like we can be, both like the same sports team. Again, it's just that, and I'm like, I never feared that I would be assaulted, or vice versa, while I was in college. And now, still working with, like Turning Point and Young America's Foundation, that are active and have chapters on college campuses. There's just this rise of violence, where I'm like, if I wore, and I collect political paraphernalia. So like, I have my MAGA hat, mounted on the wall behind me. And Yeah, you won't catch me wearing that in Washington, D.C., because just I don't want to get assaulted. Now I'm, as conservative as you can possibly be, but and I'm happy to have a debate, but I'm not gonna, openly advertise like I did when I was, a 20-year-old college student.
Yeah. Well, and I think there's just been a shift instead of listening, and it's kind of
Right.
interesting. And actually, I'm going to have to give Bill more credit. He's like,
Mhm.
Charlie Kirk was one of the ones that actually would go and debate people and talk and reason
Right.
with them. And my generation used to do that. We
Yeah.
used to make fun of each other. I posted
Yeah.
recently, I think it was Blazing Saddle. Can we go back to offending people again and it'd
Sure.
be
Yeah.
okay? And I
Yeah.
think the problem is that instead of being open and listening to people, which is what the show does, it brings in just different
Mhm.
voices
Sure.
of things. I've always been curious. We get in our little bubble. Like stuff we said today could be clipped wrong and be
Mhm.
like, well, Joe is anti-Semitism, because they could say, I've seen people anti-Semitism and then clip another part and add to it. And in reality,
Right.
I'm not. Like I don't, I'm
Right.
totally good with pretty much any group. I think the problem is that there's not enough open dialogue. And I think us
Yeah.
running to our things, like we need to go back to the Reagan Tipper Gore years where they would
Mhm.
argue on the Senate floor and go have
Mhm.
a beer afterwards and connect instead of, I
Mhm.
can't talk to you, I can't do this. But
Sure.
here's the thing, if you have to go to violence or resort to it because your point doesn't make sense, you
Mhm.
just showed your point sucks. If you
Right.
have to attack someone
Right.
because you can't defend your point, it's your point that's the issue, not their point. Again, I think that's just a wild aspect of what's going on. I did want to go
Yeah.
to this too, because again, you're in this. Have
Mhm.
you seen a lot more of the youth leaning more conservative now? Like
Mhm.
I see stuff on, again, my feed is flooded with how I am. I
Mhm.
understand it gets
Sure.
funneled, and I actually try to go
Mhm.
watch other people's stuff I don't like, so I get some of that view, so I can just get a whole picture.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I've been seeing like more the younger generation, say 20 to 25, going back to church,
Mhm.
going back to not wanting to be promiscuous, going back
Mhm.
to values, family, all that. Have you seen
Mhm.
that in your like fundraising and stuff, or is that like not something that you're really, because they don't really have money at that point?
Sure. I mean, I've certainly seen it, and that's definitely a testament to largely to Charlie and Turning Point. I mean, the following that he had on TikTok and Instagram and basically every social media platform, and now it's even more magnified of people going and searching it. The Gen Z vote, or the Gen Z male vote, definitely, Trump won that, and that's a large
Mhm.
testament to, again, having gone to a couple of Turning Point's big events. Like, you see it, like, just the energy and enthusiasm, like, Turning Point and Charlie really made, it cool to be, a MAGA hat wearing, Trump conservative on college campuses. So even, going back to, Joe Rogan and folks like that, that, he was a Bernie Sanders Democrat and is,
Hmm.
very, very, left leaning in his social views. But like, as soon as he started, whether it was COVID stuff or, Biden's, mental impairments, the left came at him hard. And, so as far as, that influence, the young, momentum there, I really think that, and a lot, this isn't anything new. A lot of people have been saying this since Charlie's death, but what Charlie was able to do with the 25 and under men, I think his wife Erica, and just seeing some of her speeches she's given, in the last month, what Erica could do for, the under 25 female crowd. And yeah, I mean, Turning Point's got a whole program catered to growing that next generation of conservative female as well. I think the future is bright. It's uh back to for what I do. I mean,
Hmm.
yes, obviously, the life cycle of giving of, the 20 in your 20s, you're largely in survival. In your 20s and or your 30s to 40s, you're in kind of, building a career, building your wealth. Uh, and then, as you enter your 50s, 60s and beyond is when you've got, hopefully a good nest egg to live on, but also you're thinking of legacy and what causes, you want to support. And that's, as far as, targeting, for our mailers or email or peer-to-peer text. Yes, those demographics obviously skew older. So we're looking at, 64 and older generally on average is your kind of prototypical direct response donor. Obviously the snail mail, postal mail side, that
That's
number is a little
them.
bit
Yep.
older. And then email and text but we're not talking by leaps and bounds. We're talking, a handful of years. So
Hmm.
still, uh, but again, like seeing what's going on, and there's definitely a lot of enthusiasm from the donor class to keep the turning points going, and really, obviously, what their grandkids are learning in schools. And again, COVID was very eye-opening for all of us. I live in Loudoun County, Virginia, which has made the news for all the wrong reasons, for what our woke school board has done. But all that to say, we're still in the fight. There's an election here, yeah, November 4th. So, we've got to keep on going. And, as far as, what the next 10, 20 years looks like, I'm pretty bullish on not just obviously our country, but, on the Republican side, we've got a deep bench and a lot of good folks waiting in the wings. And I think the vast majority of Americans are with us still.
Hmm. Well, let's do this. Where can people find you at? Because there might be some people that might
Sure.
want to donate or find out more information. Where can they find you?
Sure. I mean, the easiest way is literally jmkvictory.com is my company's website. I'm on all the social media, so if you can find JMK Victory and or spell my crazy Polish last name, pretty easily findable on all of everything from LinkedIn, X, Facebook, Instagram, all of them.
Awesome. And we'll drop it on the show notes for people to check
Okay,
out and do that. That's not a problem at all.
sure.
No, when you say that, because I'm sitting here going, if I'm looking right or left, probably the next one up for the right would be JD Vance. But then
Mhm.
I've been seeing some stuff, and I want your thoughts because you're in this world way more than I
Sure.
am. What about Erica Kirk? Do you think
Mhm.
she would want to run? Because they were saying that Charlie
Sure.
would, and with the momentum,
Hmm.
it could be there, but I don't know if that's
Yeah.
a thought really even. I know we're a month and a half
Sure.
from her husband's assassination. So don't
Right,
hear
right,
him
right.
not saying this is
Sure.
just
Yeah, yeah.
speculation.
No, yeah. I mean, especially after her both her eulogy and then the speech she gave right after his murder. I think a Vance Kirk ticket would be pretty amazing in 2028. But I also think, knowing at least some of the folks that are working there at Turning Point, I think Erica is going to want to build Turning Point over the next 10 years. I mean, I don't know exactly how old she is, but Charlie would have just turned 32. So someone in their
Mhm.
early 30s, 20 years from now, sure. I mean, I definitely
Mhm.
think there's that opportunity there. But I think realistically, the 2028 ticket that a lot of people are kind of dreaming of is a JD Vance Marco Rubio ticket there for 28, where I would definitely be all about that ticket. And there's lots and lots of folks out there too.
Let me throw an idea out because I
Mhm.
like Rubio. He's fine. But
Sure.
because again, one of the reasons why I like Trump was he was bringing people from the other side over.
Mhm.
What about a Gilbert or Tulsi Gilbert, JD Vance president, Tulsi Gilbert vice president ticket? What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean that I definitely, seeing Tulsi kind of evolve, like she's actually come out as pro-life, and obviously, you know, it's kind of crazy to think how quickly that all changed to where in 2020, she was running to be, the Democrat nominee and had been, you know, uh, the head of the Democrat campaign committees and all that. But really, like, to your point of whether it's, RFK, the JFK kind of Democrat, there's not a home for them anymore in
Mhm.
the modern day Democrat Party. So, JFK and RFK would definitely be considered Republicans by today's standards. And I
Yep.
think you see, like, I mean, I've also, swapping out Tulsi for an RFK.
Mhm.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a huge appetite there for someone who is seen more maybe libertarian-y in view, but yeah, Tulsi's definitely got a kind of rock star following too, and is definitely a fan favorite among the Turning Point crowd. So she certainly has a bright future, but there's tons of talent in the Trump admin, being from New
Mhm.
York. Uh I've worked on and I'm friends with Lee Zeldin, and he's doing a just awesome job at EPA. And there's tons of, I think you're going to see over the next year, really, because the 26 campaign is already kind of kicked off. But you're going to really start to see, now the left, where you've got AOC and Bernie doing uh their attempt to replicate the Trump rally kind of
Mhm.
roadshow. But you're gonna see like who the left has, whether it's Newsom or Gretchen Whitmer from Michigan, or yeah.
I'm from
uh,
Michigan and she
yeah,
screwed that state up. I originally lived in
yeah,
Michigan. I
yeah,
moved away. I lived in Texas for 13 years. Now I live in Arizona, but now I am not a Whitmer fan by any means. That
right,
was going to be my
right,
question, though.
yeah,
Who do they have? Because I'm looking and like Newsom's a big like one of their big rising stars. I'm sitting there going,
mm,
his state sucks. Their taxes are horrible. People are leaving
right.
in droves. Who scares you on their side? Because Newsom doesn't scare me. I don't think Newsom would win. Who scares you on the left?
Oh,
Or
that's
do
an
you not
interesting.
want to say? Like,
No, no, no. It's an interesting question because again, to Newsom's credit, I think, or he's a very skilled politician and
mhm.
will lie through his tree teeth and make it believable. Like on his podcast, and obviously he did the circuit of going on some right leaning podcast to pretend like he's a moderate when, his state is literally burning down or flooding or both, and just incompetent. But, as far as, I think, in this day and age where, I think at AOC or, that of that generation, you're going to see, even though she's a crazy commie, she is very skilled at social media and kind of the influencer culture, where I'm like, you know, she's probably gonna, run for president. If not, primary Chuck Schumer in my home state of New York. And she could win. I mean, again, like in this day and age, like, the ability of a politician to be able to kind of, break through and communicate like Trump did on Twitter, before he got
Mhm.
banned, and then, obviously Elon fixed all that. But the ability to communicate. So I would say, like, of the field, AOC is probably their, heir apparent there. Even as crazy as that sounds. But whether it's Newsom or JB Prisker or Whitmer, like, Josh Shapiro would be another one that I'd be on the lookout for, because he's got the kind of moderate vibe, even though, he's, there's no moderate Democrat in elected office. I would say, the closest you would have is like a Fetterman,
Mhm.
that is just wild to think from, just a couple of years back. But yeah, I would say AOC would be my, biggest threat on their side right now. That, or, some online influencer we haven't heard of yet.
Mhm. Well, I almost would like her to knock Schumer out because I am for term limits. I don't think
Mhm.
people should be there forever. If you've been there over
Right.
20 years, and I know I'm eliminating a bunch of Republicans when I say that,
Yeah.
if you've been there for over 20 years, you should be done. That's just my
Yeah.
personal opinion because after a
Mhm.
while, I don't think you should profit off the government. And I'll use two different people. Mitch McConnell went in not that rich and is super rich. Nancy
Mhm.
Pelosi is the greatest investor of all time, and she went in super poor too. Both of them should be held
Yeah.
for fraud because if they're
Yeah.
making laws and then benefiting from it, they should both go to jail. That's my
Yeah.
libertarian side. I
Yeah.
don't care if you're Republican, Democrat, Independent,
Mhm.
whatever. Um,
Yeah.
do
No,
you think the left
yeah.
will go right? Do you think the left will have to come back to the center more? Because if they keep going left, I don't see how they're going to win. Because even their systems where they thought they were safe, like in education, they started
Mhm.
celebrating Kirk's assassination or places. The U.S. people are like, we're done with this now. We don't
Right.
care if you're crazy. We don't care if you do little things here, whatever.
Mhm.
Most people want to be left alone. But once you go too extreme, I think they almost have to move back to the right.
I mean, I would think that would be obviously the wise decision. I think you could see, a splintering of, that kind of purplish Democrat, the everyman. But you know, to what you were saying before, whether it's Tulsi or, JD Vance being from Appalachia and that area of Ohio, those are the folks that, you need to win in order to win the presidency. And like, outside of just lying through his teeth, like Newsom is trying to pretend like he's more moderate. That's obviously because he's without explicitly saying so, he is running for president, for the next, for the 2028 cycle. And yeah, I mean, ultimately, yeah, the majority of America is center right, I would say. And that's kind of proven out in poll after poll. And yeah, for my sake, I hope the Democrats just implode and continue to go off the loony left, because we'll keep winning elections. But in reality, they'll have to kind of come back to like the Bill Clinton, Al Gore type, Southern, more. I mean, their policy positions, the Clinton Gore, 90s, are the Republican positions as far as,
Mm-hmm.
immigration, and balancing the budget and things like that, where, and there's, when it comes to, I mean, the government shutdown and the funding, I'm like, it's, both sides are to blame, the establishment on both sides. You mentioned McConnell, and then obviously Pelosi's still around. And I definitely would say that, the Nancy Pelosi stock tracker is a fascinating thing to watch.
Yep. Yep.
And but yeah, I mean, it happens on both sides. The issue with term limits, though, like, I'm all for it, except for, if you term limit the elected official, like, I think you also have to figure out a way to do that for the staff level, because ultimately you're going to
Mm-hmm.
have the bureaucracy
The
that
paid
knows how
staffers. Yep.
things
Yeah.
yeah, that knows how the levers of government work. And if you're going to limit the person at the top of the ticket, you really have to deal with all the doers on Capitol Hill that can hop from member to member, and that's very common on both sides. But yeah, we need to term limit the bureaucracy too. Otherwise, we're trading one bad for another that we don't even
Yeah.
know their name.
Well, or even my mind goes here. Fine. You can be a congressperson for 3 terms. You can be a senator for 2 terms. You can only be the president for 2 terms anyway.
Right.
And then, or make it this way. You can be in there as long as you want, but you can't invest in the stock market. You can't
Right.
make any money off of any laws that you produce. You
Hmm.
cannot have any pork spending, meaning you can't make a bill more than 1 page. You have to have a set system in place where you're not allowed to do profit from the American people because you're supposed to be a
Hmm.
civil servant, not
Sure.
become a multimillionaire. That's my biggest gripe with them because they go in and, oh, we're going to make this bill, which everyone agrees on. Let's take care of our homeless vets, but then we're going to put in our pet projects, right or left, in it. And if you don't vote for it, well, you didn't vote for the homeless vets. No, I didn't vote for you to put a bridge to nowhere. I didn't vote for you to do something
Right.
stupid or
Right.
pay for illegal immigrants when our homeless vets aren't even being taken care of. Like, come on,
Right.
let's at least put Americans first. I
Yeah.
think most people get that. But the problem
Mhm.
is that we have such a big bureaucracy
Mhm.
that they just shove stuff through. It makes no sense.
Right.
You can do
Yeah. I
that.
mean,
You can stay there as long as you want.
right. I mean,
No,
the minute.
no, no
Yeah.
blind trusts either. We're
Right.
eliminating blind trust. You can't
Yeah.
invest at all. Then all of a
That's a
sudden they
that.
would all leave.
Yeah. I think Joe Graham 2028 would be a
No,
good
no,
ticket
no,
right
no,
there.
no, 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 no. I do not want to be a politician. I am too honest and straightforward. I do not want to be a politician.
Fair enough, fair enough. But yeah, I mean that's sort of the catch 22 is that, passing these continuing resolutions, the CRs are just, kicking the can down the road a couple weeks, couple months. The passing a budget like is a tall order because of exactly what you said. Like every special interest wants to get their piece. And instead of doing the one-page bills and some of the kind of, just, open and transparent legislating and open debate, like, the Washington establishment doesn't want that. They want the closed door, the House of Cards style politics, for those familiar with that Netflix show.
Yep.
But yeah, I mean, you see sort of how the sausage is made. Obviously that show is dramatized quite a bit, but the horse trading and things like that, where Mike Johnson is probably the most conservative Speaker of the House that we've had in a long, long time. But the fact that he's Speaker, he's got to cut deals, and with a barely a majority,
Hmm.
you can't outside of a Thomas Massey, you're not going to get very many perfect things through. You're going to unfortunately get all the pork and all the carve outs. But yeah, that's a bigger problem that, Trump is, I think trying to make it work, but he I think is more knowledgeable this time around than his first time,
Hmm.
where he had to lean on the, DC establishment to form a government. This time, I think you see from his, the top level cabinet folks on down to, his White House team, those are, loyalists through and through that remember what happened after the January 6th event, and the folks that cut bait and tried to save their own or thought they were doing the savvy political thing. Those folks aren't currently employed by the Trump admin. But yeah, it's interesting to have a non-politician, certainly, because after years of we thought we were going to go Bush Clinton, and then that Donald Trump guy won the
Hmm.
2016 race and sort of upset the what the establishment really. I think the majority of the 20 plus year politicians were all about like, okay, well, this is going to be more of the same. We get rich, screwing, the everyman. And, I think, Trump has been, just a wrecking ball to all of that, which is great.
Mhm. Yeah, no, I've loved that about him. Like on that regard, I like it because he doesn't think like a politician, he thinks like a businessman.
Hmm.
Before I let you go, because we're winding
Yeah.
up on an hour here, so is there anything else you wanted to leave our listeners with?
Um, I mean, I would just kind of echo, the Charlie Kirk call of for folks to seek the truth and find a local church would be the most important. And if you're in need of fundraising services or marketing services, and you're Christian conservative running for office or running a business, hit me up at jmkvictory.com.
Some Jeff, thank you for being on here. And like
Yeah.
you said, go get involved, figure out what it is that you believe, and actually
Mhm.
put time and attention to it. Because guess what? Many
Yeah.
people have died, so you have a right to vote. If you don't take that right, you're just wasting what they did for you. Until next time,
Amen.
go be amazing.